Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I am Adrian Ford, and we are here for a tag video. This is a tag that, regrettably, I helped inspire. This tag is from, and if you hear anything in the background, that's because this is being filmed on the 3rd of July, so there's a little bit of pre-freedom going on outside. This is the toilet book tag from Helene at Books by Lane, and well, let's get into it, I suppose. Let's get into this. I'm going to do this tag justice in the best way that I know how, with a little bit of piss and vinegar. Question number 1. Your bladder is full. You have been dying to pee for 2 hours. Finally, you make it home. You sprint upstairs, only to find the bathroom already occupied. Question. A book that you looked very much forward to reading, but then never did. For me, this is The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. Before the reformation of Strip Cover Lit, we had been reading As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner, and I was hoping to go on a bit of a William Faulkner tear for the channel, as I Lay Dying is the only one of his novels that I have read. But with the reformulation of things and trying to find some balance for the channel, I have not gotten around to that yet. I do hope to tackle some Faulkner soon. 2. You were over at a friend's house. All of a sudden you feel the cramps coming in, and you know that a very big, nasty doogie is on its way. So now is not the time to panic. You find a stupid excuse and go home immediately. Question. A book that you had to justify reading. Now, this is a book that also appeared in Helene's take on the tag, and this, for me, is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, because I think that this is a title that transcends literature itself to anyone with just a cursory knowledge of the craft or of books or of pop culture, and to see someone reading Lolita for someone who is not invested in the culture of literature and the practice of literature may seem akin to someone just hanging out at the coffee shop with Mein Kampf, right? It strikes the non-reader as strange. And honestly, I had to justify this for myself a little bit because I'd always heard such glowing things about Lolita that when you really sit down and think about what the novel is about, you don't want to put yourself in that situation. But boy, am I glad I read it. It's a game changer of a novel. 3. Blissfully ignorant. You open the door to your bathroom. Boom! A naked family is in there. They forgot to lock the door. Question. A book that made you feel uncomfortable. Now, first, I've got to address a couple things in the question itself here. There is a typo with the question, and it literally says there is a naked family in the bathroom, which is a small typo, but when you're envisioning the question, a very large one. And 2, forgot to lock the door is, in quotations, implying on some level that said family member in the bathroom expected, nay, wished that you would open the door to find them there nude, which might, in some Freudian way, explain why Helene accidentally left out the member from the question. But for me, as uncomfortable as this makes me, I'm going to answer it in a bit of a different way than perhaps the question is intended. A book that made me uncomfortable was The Flowers Look Like People at Last, a collection of poems by Charles Bukowski, because it was, I believe, the 3rd or 4th collection of his that I had read, and with every collection of his that I read, I realize a little bit more and a little bit more that I'm probably a dirtbag, right? I think that's one of the things that Bukowski's writing helps, hopefully, more people than just myself realize, that there's a little bit of dirtbag in all of us. That these feelings, these emotions, the things that Bukowski notices are perhaps more universal than we would like to allow ourselves to think. 4. After taking a doogie, you feel very relieved. However, the smell is really nasty. You use every deodorant and perfume that you can find to try to cover it up. Question: a shitty book that had a pretty cover. I am the founder of stripped cover lit. Covers do not necessarily at all affect my reading preferences, the books that I will pick up, the things that I will consider reading. So fuck your question and your accent. Number 5. You've been sitting on the toilet for 2 hours contemplating life, as one does, and you keep reliving that one argument that you had with your friend, when all of a sudden, the most clever and witty rejoinder pops into your head. Question: a book with witty characters. For me, I'm going to answer this question by citing Hemingway's entire canon, because I think that that's one of the things that Hemingway often gets overlooked for, the dry wit of many of his characters. And I think that goes overlooked because of how bare the dialogue and narration is in many of Hemingway's stories, if not all of Hemingway's stories, short stories, novels, it's included. So I think that one of the things that you have to consider when reading Hemingway is the intonations of the characters, and it's hard, it's an easy thing to overlook. So I think that a lot of the dry wit involved in Hemingway's work gets put by the wayside. Number 6. You walk into the bathroom and discover with disgust that sprinkles are all over the toilet seat and on the wall. You are reminded, yet again, that you live with a very nasty species, the male species. Question: a book with a nasty and or annoying protagonist. Now, I've worked retail since I was 17 years old, and I have cleaned many a public restroom in many an area. And I will tell you that 100 times out of 100 times, I would rather clean the men's room in a public restroom than the women's room in a public place. I'm not sure that you are fully aware of how disgusting the female portion of the species can be. And in conjunction with this, I'm going to give your question a bit of a cross answer, and I'm going to say Madame Bovary by Flaubert, and I don't have to justify that. 7. You sit innocently on the toilet, taking a doogie, when suddenly, with horror, you realize there is no toilet paper left. Question: a book with a frustrating ending. This is a small-time book that many people probably have not read, so I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of explaining in conjunction with the answer here. But for me, this was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and I think that with a story that is crafted so well and is just so intricate and beautiful, the hero has to die at the end. And unfortunately, when the hero dies at the end, there's no chance for sequels. 8. You go to the bathroom to pee. You start checking social media. You text your best friend. You watch booktube videos, namely Stripped Cover Lit, probably. And without your knowing, 3 hours have passed. Question: a book you flew through / read in one sitting. Again, this question represents a clear gender bias. I stand to pee and have at least one hand occupied at all times, so your question doesn't make much sense to me. And for that, I am also not a one-sitting reader. I like to ingest the literature, to masticate a bit on the things that I am reading. And so we move on to the people I will tag. I'm going to tag 3 people here. I would tag 4, but Monse's channel is not currently running, and if at any point her channel does get running again, I want Monse to do this tag because it's only fitting. I also will tag Celia because I really want to hear her curse. Also, Erica from the Perks of Books, but you've got to do the BookTube Island tag first, Erica. You have to. That's not a request. And finally, Richard from Richard Reads, to fully round out my June shout-out video for people who have done this tag. And that is it for this episode of Stripped Cover Lit. If you like what you saw here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you have not already, and I look forward to spending time with you in future videos. Jesus fucking Christ.